In today's video, I wanted to continue my journey through the Dark Brotherhood's questline featured in the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. Last time I met Cicero, a traveling jester en route to somewhere with his mother's coffin. I later learned that the destination was the Dark Brotherhood Sanctuary. Before then, I heard rumors of a boy attempting to contact the faction as he wanted Grelod the Kind, a mean old lady, to die. I went out of my way and performed this task for him, but it didn't sit right with the Brotherhood. They kidnapped me and forced me to take out a hostage of my choosing. During this time, I demonstrated what happens if you decide to go against Astrid and eradicate the guild. The game was then reverted back, I played by her rules, and I was brought into the Dark family. Nazir, a guildmate, gave me my first 3 contracts. These helped me gain some footing as an assassin. As for the last quest I did, I infiltrated a dwarven ruin, took out the bandit leader who manipulated a grieving young woman, and then I eliminated that same young woman's old best friend. This was all done to make her seem more important to the Shattershield clan, a beloved family to the Hurt Muiri. This is where the story continues. Returning to the Falkreath Sanctuary, I reported my success to Astrid.
Ah, you're back. So, how went your first real contract? A bit more exciting than what Nazir's been offering, I'd wager? Of course, dear, of course. And from what my little ravens tell me, you handled yourself quite well. Now, I need your assistance with a matter of a more personal nature. It's Cicero. Ever since he arrived, his behavior's been, well, erratic would be an understatement. I do believe he is truly mad, but it's worse than that. He's taken to locking himself in the Night Mother's chamber and talking to someone in hushed but frantic tones. Who is he speaking with? What are they planning? I fear treachery. Maybe so, but healthy paranoia has saved this sanctuary before, and my gut's telling me that demented little fool is up to something. Dear brother, I need you to steal into that chamber and eavesdrop on their meeting. It'll be no use clinging to the shadows. They'll see you for sure. No, you need a hiding place, somewhere they'd never think to look. Like inside the Night Mother's coffin. Be that as it may, we have no other choice. You need to remain unseen. Now go, before they meet, and report back to me with whatever you learn.
I don't recall seeing Cicero with anyone else out on the road by Loria's farm, but I do understand Astrid's concerns. The Jester is the only one who knows what's in the box, and that has everybody's mind racing. He could have smuggled somebody in, like a spy for the Empire, or even an operative from an enemy faction. Not wasting any more time, I rushed over to the room with the coffin and approached the Iron Tomb. The thing certainly looked like the real deal. It wasn't like anything I had seen before. Picking the novice lock, there really was a corpse inside, but that doesn't discount the idea that Cicero brought 2 bodies in, one dead and one alive. Stepping inside, the doors closed behind me.
Are we alone? Yes. Yes! Alone! Sweet solitude! No one will hear us, disturb us. Everything is going according to plan. The others, I've spoken to them, and they're coming around, I know it. The wizard Festus Crex, perhaps even the Argonian, and the Unchild. What about you? Have you spoken to anyone? No? No, of course not. I do the talking, the stalking, the seeing, and the saying. And what do you do, Nothing! Not that I'm angry. No, never. Cicero understands. Cicero always understands and obeys. You will talk when you're ready, won't you? Won't you? Sweet Night Mother.
Poor Cicero, dear Cicero, such a humble servant, but he will never hear my voice, for he is not the listener.
Oh, but how can I defend you? How can I exert your will if you will not speak to anyone?
Oh, but I will speak. I will speak to you, for you are the one. Yes, you. You who shares my iron tomb, who warms my ancient bones. I give you this task. Journey to Wallenroad. Speak with Armand Mortier.
Poor Cicero has failed you. Poor Cicero is sorry, sweet mother. I've tried so very hard, but I just can't find the listener.
Tell Cicero the time has come. Tell him the words he has been waiting for all these years. Darkness rises when silence dies.
What? What treachery? Defiler! Debaser and defiler! You have violated the sanctity of the Night Mother's coffin! Explain yourself! Speak, worm! She spoke to you? More treachery, more trickery and deceit! You lie! The Night Mother speaks only to the listener! And there is no listener! She said that. She said those words. To you. Darkness rises when silence dies. But those are the words, the binding words, written in the keeping tomes. The signal so I would know. Mother's only way of talking to sweet Cicero. Then it's true. She's back. Our Lady is back. She has chosen a listener. She has chosen you. All hail the listener.
By Sithis, this ends now! Back away, fool! Whatever you've been planning is over! Are you all right? I heard the commotion. Who was Cicero talking to? Where's the accomplice? Reveal yourself, traitor!
I spoke only to the Night Mother. I spoke to the Night Mother, but she didn't speak to me. Oh, no! She spoke only to him, to the listener.
What? The listener? What are you going on about? What is this lunacy?
It's true! It's true! The Night Mother has spoken. The silence has been broken. The listener has been chosen.
When I heard Cicero screaming, I knew you'd been discovered. I feared the worst. Are you all right? Then what in Sithis' name is going on? Cicero spoke to the Night Mother, but she spoke to you? Is this just more of the fool's rambling? What? So Cicero wasn't talking to anyone else? Just the Night Mother's body? And the Night Mother who, according to everything we know, will only speak to the person chosen as listener, just spoke. Right now. To you? By Sithis. And? What did she say? Amand Motier? I have no idea who that is. But Vollenrud, that I have heard of. And I know where it is. No. No! Listen, I don't know what's going on here, but you take your orders from me. Are we clear on that? The Night Mother may have spoken to you, but I am still the leader of this family. I will not have my authority so easily dismissed. I need time to think about all this. Go see Nazir. Do some work for him. I'll find you when I'm ready to discuss the matter further.
There's an obvious rift between Astrid and Cicero. Cicero wants to do things the traditional way, while Astrid wants to keep the same hierarchy system in place. With that, thus ends the quest, Whispers in the Dark. Obeying Astrid's commands, I spoke with Nazir for more contracts.
Well then, your timing couldn't be better. As it turns out, I've got 2 new contracts. One rather easy assignment, and another that should prove quite a challenge. Your first target is an orc bard named Lurbuk. The other is a vampire by the name of Hern. Happy hunting.
I asked Nazir for a little more information on each target.
He is, by all accounts, the worst bard in all of Skyrim. Apparently, so many people sought his death, Astrid had to hold a lottery to determine the client. He's a vampire and has blended into human society for years. He's never far from his female companion, Hert, also a vampire. The contract is for the male Hern, but you'll probably have to contend with the female too. So for Sithis' sake, watch yourself.
Lurbuk can't be the worst bard in all of Skyrim now that I'm here, right? I figured I'd start with the easier of the 2 contracts, and then progress to the more difficult one. Exiting the sanctuary and popping open the map, Lurbuk seemed to be performing over in Morthal. Fast traveling to the hold and entering Moorside Inn, I spotted the orc at one of the tables and wanted to get some dialogue out of him.
The world used to make sense.
Is the line for my next performance starting already? Come on, don't be shy. Plenty of room for everyone. All right, how about this? Shadows creep, and phantoms leap. A man's got scared, and the demons dared to, visit upon him, all which they feared. Brilliant, I know. It's a gift.
I have to say, I do admire his confidence, and all things considered, his performance was at least comical. In any case, a job's a job, and I waited around for Lurbuk to isolate himself. Finally, in the early hours of the morning, the orc moseyed on over to his room and went to sleep.
I'm in the mood to sing! What about you, friend? Care to join me?
The first method I tried was dropping a war axe down on his neck. It did the trick, but everybody in the inn was alerted to my actions. So, trying again, I went with the old tried and true stealth archer takedown. The innkeeper still shouted for bloody murder, but she didn't do anything about it, nor were there any witnesses to my crime. With this contract completed, I left Morthal and ended up traveling back to the sanctuary. Hern and Hert, the vampire couple, were situated somewhere just north of there. Riding along the road, I soon came across Half Moon Mill. Hern was inside of the hut, and I guess I just figured that since they were undead, there couldn't possibly be any bounties incurred during this mission. Picking the lock and gaining entrance, I couldn't have been more wrong. They called me out for trespassing, I received a small bounty from Falkreath, and they began attacking me right away. Trying again, this time waiting for nightfall, both Hern and Hert were outside. Approaching my target, I spoke with him for some short dialogue.
Well now, what have we here? A lost little lamb?
Hern and I do so adore guests. These guards are such a bore.
Well then, you won't be leaving here alive.
Short and sweet, the couple unsheathed their weapons and the battle began. Hert was the easier of the two to defeat, so I targeted her first. Once she was down, it was just a 1v1 between Hern and I. He had decent health, but he didn't hit very hard. I was lucky that they missed a lot of their attacks, as I did not contract sanguinary vampiris. Before leaving, I looked around their hut to see if they were still hanging on to any of their recent victims. There wasn't anything incriminating at their home, but a small distance northwest, at the foot of a cairn, I found the body of a dark elf. Blood was splattered all over the place, and I thought for sure this had to be their doing, although there's no direct evidence of it. Returning to the sanctuary, I was eager to turn my quests into Nazir when, out of nowhere, Astrid approached me.
We need to talk. Look, something is happening here. I'm not sure entirely what that something is, but, well, we need to find out. If the Night Mother really did give you an order to talk to a contact, we'd be mad to ignore it. And I think we'd both agree Cicero's brought quite enough madness to this sanctuary. So go. Go to Vollenrud. It's a crypt, pretty far to the northeast. Talk to this Armand Motier, and let's see where all this leads,
It looks like Astrid finally came around. It's a good thing too, as it's an important step to uniting the Brotherhood. Before dealing with the Motier business, I wrapped up my 2 contracts.
Wonderful. The only good bard is a dead one as far as I'm concerned. All that singing and mirth. Your payment, as per the usual. No sarcasm this time. You faced a vampire and lived to tell the tale. Well done. And if you contracted sanguinary vampiris, be sure to get that taken care of, else you'll end up like our own Babette. Unless, of course, that was your goal all along. Here's your payment.
With that, thus ends the quests, kill Lurbuk and Hern. Whoever this Amon Motieri is, the Night Mother personally recommended that the guild pay him a visit. Whatever the reason may be, it must be of great importance. Popping open the map, Vollenrud is located just northwest of Loria's farm. Fast traveling over and approaching on horseback, it didn't seem like there were any threats outside. After looting a few of its treasures, I made my way into the Nordic Hall. Right off the bat, it was evident that someone had recently been here. Remains were scattered and objects were thrown around. Getting close to the stairs, I must have triggered some sort of enchantment as a nearby skeleton rose up out of its chair and began attacking me. It wasn't a challenge, but I had my guard up for the rest of the dungeon. The next area had a variety of rooms to go into and explore. I didn't venture too far off my destined path, but it seemed like there were other zones that I could have gone into. Following my quest marker, it led me to a small garden that was littered with the corpses of Draugr. This was a sign that I was getting close. Opening the nearby doors, I was brought to a room with 2 men, one a noble and the other an imperial soldier.
By the almighty divines, you've come. You've actually come. This dreadful black sacrament thing. It worked.
Yes, so it would seem. Well, I won't waste your time. I would like to arrange a contract. Several, actually. I dare say, the work I'm offering has more significance than anything your organization has experienced in, well, centuries. As I said, I want you to kill several people. You'll find the targets as well as their manners of elimination quite varied. I'm sure someone of your disposition will probably even find it enjoyable. But you should know that these killings are but a means to an end, for they pave the way to the most important target. The real reason I'm speaking with a cutthroat in the bowels of this detestable crypt, for I seek the assassination of the Emperor. That is correct. What I ask is no small thing, of course. But you represent the Dark Brotherhood. This is what you do, no? You must understand. So much has led to this day. So much planning and maneuvering. Now, it's as if the very stars have finally aligned. But I digress. Here, take these. They need to be delivered to your superior. Rexus? The items.
Here.
Here. The sealed letter will explain everything that needs to be done. The amulet is quite valuable. You can use it to pay for any and all expenses.
Confused and doubtful of Amand, I asked him a follow-up question.
Is there something else you need? In the year 3E41, Emperor Pelagius Septim was murdered in the Temple of the One in the Imperial City, cut down by a Dark Brotherhood assassin. His killing ushered in, shall we say, a necessary change in Imperial policy. There are those now who wish for a similar change. I am sorry, but that's all I'm at liberty to say.
This contract is far-fetched and feels too good to be true. I'll definitely be reporting this to Astrid in order to hear what she has to say about it. A fun little fact, you can see that Motier performed the Black Sacrament. This is of course how the Night Mother knew of this contract, and she was well aware of its potential importance. Astrid was confused by this whole process, as she's never received contracts in this way before. She's used to having eyes and ears out on the streets, but she's not used to having someone else relay the words of a dead woman to the guild. Leaving Vollenrud, I was curious to see the contents of the sealed letter. Unsealing the stamp and taking a peek, it details everything that Motieri told me and so much more. It provides a thorough, step-by-step plan for assassinating the Emperor. It talks about other key players that the guild will need to take out and the manner in which they should be completed. I don't want to get too into the specifics right now, as this is either the blueprint to pulling off one of the biggest jobs the guild has ever seen, or it's a setup put on by Amand. The other thing I wanted to look at was the amulet. Obviously, there's a small barrier for using this to pay for any possible contract expenses. If it's real and has value, it needs to be sold to someone who would actually buy the thing. Fast traveling back to the sanctuary, I spoke with Astrid.
You're back. Good. All right, so, did you meet this Motier? What did he want? You're joking. What's this? By Sithis, you're not joking. To kill the Emperor of Tamriel. The Dark Brotherhood hasn't done such a thing since the assassination of Pelagius. As a matter of fact, no one has dared assassinate an Emperor of Tamriel since the murder of Uriel Septim, and that was 200 years ago. No, she certainly wouldn't. And, for whatever reason, she chose to relay Motier's information to you. I don't know exactly what's going on here, if you're the listener, or this is some fluke, or what, but what we now have before us... You're damn right we'll accept it. If we pull this off, the Dark Brotherhood will know a fear and respect we haven't seen in centuries. You think I'd abandon an opportunity to lead my family to glory? But this is all so much to take in. I need time to read the letter and figure out where we go from here. And this amulet. I'm thinking we need that amulet appraised. I want to know where it came from, how much it's worth, and if we can actually get away with selling it. And there's only one man who can give us what we need. Delvin Mallory. He's a fence, a private operator. Works out of the Ratway in Riften. Give me the letter. Bring Mallory the amulet. Find out everything you can and sell it if he's willing. He'll offer a letter of credit. That's fine. Delvin Mallory and the Dark Brotherhood have... history. He can be trusted.
Astrid seems to think the contract is legit, which, if it is, will be monumental for the faction. In search of further confirmation, Delvin is actually a member of the Thieves Guild, so he would know his way around a real necklace as well as buying and selling hot items. Heading into the Ratway and meandering over to the Ragged Flagon, I approached the Breton and spoke with him.
Oh, now you must be lost. Best you scurry off while you're able. The Ratway, well, it has a habit of swallowing up the uninvited. Oh, I see. Well now, how is Astrid doing these days, huh? Tell her to stop by sometime. We can have a drink. Catch up. But we can discuss that later, yeah? What does the Brotherhood need? Let's see. Where did you get this? No, don't answer. I don't want to know. This is an amulet of the Emperor's Elder Council, specially crafted for each member, worth a small fortune. Ain't something you give up lightly. Look, it ain't my business to tell the Dark Brotherhood its business, but if you killed a member of the Elder Council, you'd better believe. Buy it. This, an Elder Council amulet? Oh yes indeed. Oh, wait, just one moment. Here is a letter of credit, usable by Astrid only, for any service or item I can provide, as per our standard arrangement. You bring that back to your lovely mistress, with my regards.
That went a lot smoother than I thought it would. Plus, an Elder Council amulet, on top of its beautiful craftsmanship, there's a lot of rarity to this piece. Something tells me it's worth a little more than the game's suggested 1,000 gold. Returning to the sanctuary and seeking out Astrid, she says exactly what I was thinking with regards to Motier.
Good, you're back. Well, what did Mallory have to say? Is the amulet authentic? The Elder Council? Oh, now that explains quite a bit. Motier, you naughty, naughty boy. Hiring the Dark Brotherhood to help you rise beyond your station. Delicious. Was Mallory willing to buy the amulet? Splendid. Then we're ready to begin. Or, more specifically, you're ready to begin. After all, you're the one the Night Mother spoke to. But by Sithis, I hope I'm making the right choice here. You may be an effective killer, but your command of guile leaves much to be desired. The sealed letter you delivered to me was mysteriously unsealed upon its arrival. I can only assume you've read its contents. Sloppy. But moving on to business. As you probably already know from reading the letter, you're going to a wedding. Well, more like the public reception. It should be a lovely affair. You'll mingle with the guests, eat some cake, stab the bride. Oh yes, you've got to kill the bride at her wedding. And they say romance is dead. Her name is Vittoria Vici. She oversees the East Empire Company's business holdings in Solitude. The wedding is being held in that city, at the Temple of the Divines. Her death will cause an uproar, which is exactly what we want. Vici is likely to address her guests frequently, as is the wedding custom. Kill her when she does that, and I promise you a significant bonus. Now go, and give my best to the bride.
Kudos to Astrid, and by extension Bethesda. I didn't think they would call me out for opening the sealed letter. The next task laid out for me seems simple enough, yet it would end up being my most complicated one yet. With that, thus ends the quest. The silence has been broken. It was finally time to begin the first of many stages for this ultimate contract, assassinating Vittoria Vici, the first cousin of Emperor Titus Mede II. Fast traveling over to Solitude, I could hear the festivities from the other side of town. Working my way up towards the keep and into the reception area, things weren't exactly happy-go-lucky. The bride and groom seemed to be in good spirits, but there was a lot of tension between their families. The groom, Asgeir, and his kin are patriots for Skyrim's independence. And of course, Vittoria, being the first cousin of the Emperor, automatically puts her in the opposite camp. The wedding is supposed to be a symbol of putting the feud to rest, but you could cut the tension with a butter knife. Approaching the couple, I spoke with them to hear some dialogue.
Now, fella, let's not get too close to my new bride, eh? The best. Vittoria's a good woman. Any man should be so lucky. I know my father is not happy about me marrying an Imperial, but that is his problem.
What an amazing day this has been. I hope you've been enjoying the festivities. I'm just so overwhelmed. Such kindness for me. Yes, indeed. Hail the Imperial Legion. Hail the Stormcloaks. Hail Solitude and the Eight Divines. On this glorious day, we honor everyone.
She seems to have a good attitude and is accepting of all, which is too bad. It's a shame that I have to put down someone who's an advocate for peace. In order to get my bonus, I have to wait for the couple to address their guests. Surveying the land, I got a good idea of where I could set myself up. It turns out that Asgeir and Vittoria go up to the landing above the reception in order to make their speech. Following them and crouching behind the Imperial, the kill seemed so simple. One good crouched heavy attack and she was dead. The issue was, I couldn't escape quick enough for Asgeir to not see me. He would turn around almost immediately and alert everybody to my actions. The first time I let things play out, and the balcony became a war zone. It turns out, Vizara, a fellow guildmate, was sent by Astrid to aid me if anything went wrong. So it was nice to know that brute force was an option. However, I wanted to do things discreetly, so I tried another way. Across from the couple's balcony was a small landing. From here, I had a clear shot of Vittoria. The only issue was that Asgeir was also within eyeshot, and anytime I made a move, he would see me and report the crime. I attempted the kill many times, and each one was no more successful than the last. So, going back to the drawing board, I returned to the sanctuary and did something that I haven't really taken advantage of yet. My brothers and sisters here actually offer advice on contracts, and Babette had a really good tip for me.
It's no fair. I love weddings. Astrid should have given this contract to me. Instead, she's got me visiting cities and assessing security. How boring. But listen, I think I can help you. The wedding reception is outside the Temple of the Divines, right? In Solitude? If so, the bride will probably address the crowd from the balcony. It overlooks the courtyard. Well, there's an old statue there. I've seen it. Hanging bread over where she'll be standing. Old means weak. Weak means it could fall.
Her method actually plays out similar to one that was in Oblivion's Dark Brotherhood questline. It's always fun to get to use the environment to your advantage. Returning to Solitude, I waited for the newlyweds to give their speech again and struck when the moment was right. The kill was pretty satisfying and the statue worked like a charm, but Asgeir was still a witness, so having no choice but to take care of the loose ends, I loosened the stones once more and struck him down immediately after. This time, no bounty was incurred, but I still made some enemies through my actions. The Snowshods, the groom's family, came to their rescue and started attacking me. In a twisted turn of events though, the guards aggroed onto them and began cutting them down. Why, I'm not sure. I suppose all they witnessed was the family assaulting my character and acted on that. The City Watch stormed up to the balcony and slew the Snowshods. There was a fifth dead NPC too, which happened to be a legionnaire. I suppose he also saw what really happened, but his clansmen turned against him. You couldn't write a better ending to all of this in a book. With the deed done, I fast traveled back to the sanctuary and reported my success.
The news is everywhere. Vittoria Vici, the Emperor's cousin, butchered at her own wedding. Well done. Let's see His Eminence try to ignore this. With Vici's murder, you've started us down a path the Dark Brotherhood hasn't traveled in centuries. The assassination of an emperor. And now your reward. A unique spell to summon a legend of the Dark Brotherhood. His soul serves us now in death, as his body once did in life. Ah, and of course, a bonus for killing Vici while she addressed her guests as instructed. Gold. Simple and pure. Spend it as you will. Now then, time to proceed to the next stage of the plan. Go and speak with Gabriella. She's been helping me arrange your next contract.
750 gold goes a long way, but I was hoping for something a little more tangible and usable for the bonus. However, the summon she gave me was pretty wicked. It gives me the power to conjure the ghost of Lucien Lachance to fight by my side, until he's defeated. Periodically, he'll even throw in some dialogue that very soon becomes a massive factor in a critically important decision.
You know, a good purification might be just what this sanctuary needs.
With that, thus ends the quest, Bound Until Death. Running through the sanctuary, I caught up with Gabriella and she told me about the next stage of the plan.
Dear brother, I've been waiting for you. Your next contract awaits, as I'm sure Astrid indicated. With the Emperor's arrival in Skyrim now a certainty, his security service, the Penitus Oculatus, will need to begin its preparations immediately. Security is being handled by a Commander Morrow. Astrid and I have devised a plan to break the man, and in doing so, cripple the Emperor's protection. You are to slay the Commander's son, Gaius Morrow, and once he is dead, plant false evidence on his body, implicating him in a plot to kill the Emperor. He is set to leave the Penitus Oculatus outpost at Dragonbridge and inspect the security of each city in Skyrim. Go there now. Observe Gaius Morrow's departure and follow him. Waylay him in one of the cities and send his soul to Sippus. Once he's dead, plant the incriminating letter on his body and let fate take care of the rest. Oh, and one final thing. To earn your bonus, do not kill Gaius Morrow in Dragonbridge or on the road. Kill him in one of the other major cities he'll be visiting. There, the body will be discovered quickly, as will the letter implicating Gaius Morrow in the plot to assassinate the Emperor. Do that, and Astrid has authorized me to grant you a rather unique bonus. It is a special token to be given to Olava the Feeble in Whiterun. Olava is an old and dear friend, and a powerful seer. The token entitles you to a reading of your future. It's an opportunity one should not pass up.
Before leaving, I asked her if she knew what Gaius' schedule would be like.
No, so your best plan is to follow him after he leaves Dragonbridge. However, there is one other option. We know there's an actual written travel schedule, somewhere in the Penitus Oculatus outpost. Securing that would, obviously, be most beneficial.
Even though it wasn't a canon event for this playthrough, I already had a brief encounter with Commander Morrow. He seemed like a decent enough guy, but of course, he's also a sworn enemy to the Brotherhood, and duty comes first. Exiting the sanctuary, I traveled over to Dragonbridge just in time to catch the young soldier saying his farewells.
Father, you worry too much. I'll be fine.
I know you will, but all the same, remember everything I said. Stay alert, and when you get to the cities, make your observations and move on.
I understand, but you're being paranoid. I'm inspecting security, not charging off into battle. There's not a lot that can go wrong.
Son, when the Emperor's safety is concerned, anything could go wrong. Off with you now, and good travels.
Farewell, Father. I'll return as soon as I'm able.
I wanted to get into the Oculatus outpost before Marrow came back in. That plan didn't work out very well, but if anything, the whole ordeal went way better than I could have hoped. With both Morrow Sr. and the agent's back turned to me, I was able to crouch and take the schedule undetected. The note didn't come up as own though, so maybe I went through all that trouble for no reason. But in any case, I got to see where Gaius would be and at what time. After playing a little bit of cat and mouse, as when I traveled across the province, he would have already moved on, I finally caught up to him at Markarth. Watching him move across the streets, I approached and spoke with him to hear some dialogue.
Keep back, citizen. I have important business I must attend to. Is that a threat? Back off, or by the 8 I'll cleave that arrogant head from its shoulders.
Stalking him for a bit, I knew Gaius was going to be a tricky man to isolate. However, the schedule said he was going to stay the night in the guardhouse. Less eyes, more opportunity. Making my way into the fold and descending to the barracks, Gaius was sitting all alone in the hallway. The opportunity was good, but I felt like there was a better one coming up. Waiting for a bit longer, a new patrol of guards came in for some sleep, and Gaius set off for his next adventure. Creeping behind him, out of sight, I went for the backstab and it registered, but Gaius was a lot tougher than he looked. The half-health commander's son armed himself, and we began to fight by the entrance of the barracks. Luckily though, my enchantments carried me through the battle quickly, and Gaius Mara was killed before the other guards could look into it. Going into his inventory, I took the letter from his father and put in the incriminating one. Once I was able to get far enough away from the scene, I took a quick peek at the commander's letter to his son. It talked about honor and duty, how Morrow Sr. was proud of Morrow Jr., and that this was a really important task, not only for the Empire and the Oculatus, but for the family name. He only trusted his son for the job, and now, look where that got him. Returning to the sanctuary, I was eager to tell Gabriella of my success, but she beat me to the punch and informed me of a more pressing matter.
Ah, at last. I've been anxiously awaiting your return. Yes, I know. As does Astrid. You have done well, and have earned both your reward and a bonus, as I have mentioned. But you should know that we have a more pressing matter to deal with. It's... Cicero. There's been an incident. You should proceed into the sanctuary. I'll let Astrid explain.
It never seems like there's a time to take a step back and catch my breath. There's always something else going on around here. With that, thus ends the quest, breaching security. Rushing to the common area, everybody was gathered around Vizara. There were clearly signs of a struggle. Blood was splattered on the floor, and the Argonian was badly injured. From the group's brief discussion, it sounds like this was Cicero's doing, but he and Arnbjorn were nowhere to be found.
Marrow is dead, I know, but we've got bigger problems right now. The fool went absolutely berserk. He wounded Vizara, tried to kill me, and then he fled. I knew that lunatic couldn't be trusted.
Oh, it's true, I'm afraid. Cicero was a little whirlwind, slashing this way and that. It would have been funny if he weren't trying to murder us all.
Don't forget the ranting and raving. About the Night Mother, how she was the true leader of the Dark Brotherhood, and Astrid was just a pretender.
Look, we've got to deal with this situation. You've got to deal with this situation. I want you to find that miserable little fool and end his life. But first, find my husband. Make sure he's all right. After the attack, Arnbjorn flew into a rage. When Cicero left, Arnbjorn went after him. They disappeared into the wild. Search Cicero's room. Maybe there's something in there that sheds some light on where he might have gone. Let me know the minute you find something. I've got to see to Vizara and calm everyone down.
Why Cicero would do this isn't known right now, but the clues started to come together with the more pieces I found. Heading into his quarters, the quest marker directed me over to one of his journals. The thing is though that this was the 5th and final volume of his collection. He had 4 other diaries that were teeming with untold lore and history of the Dark Brotherhood. I read every single journal, and here's a summary of each one. The first journal begins with Cicero arriving at the Shadenhall Hall, the very same one that the player operates out of in Oblivion. The sanctuary was alive and well at that point, and its patron/matron is someone named Rasha. Cicero mentions the purification, which I thought was a pretty neat detail. He also makes note that a sanctuary up in Bruma recently fell. This is an important fact, as there aren't many Brotherhood bases left in Tamriel. The guild's presence is thinning, and the Black Hand is split on a decision for what to do: expand operations or combine what's left in order to make a stronger, more unified guild. In Volume 1, Cicero also introduces Alysanne Dupe into the mix, the then current listener of the faction. She has her own residence in Breville, similar to what Ungolem had in Oblivion. Lastly, it's irrelevant, but Cicero talks about some of the contracts that he embarked on at the time. One of them involved him posing as an overly obsessed fan of the Grand Champion for Cyrodiil's arena, following him around everywhere and then slashing his throat in an isolated space. Next up is Volume 2. He opens by writing about the fall of the Wayrest Sanctuary. An interesting detail is that with almost every single lost base, it wasn't the Empire or some noble faction that wiped them out. It was usually a group of ruffians, criminals, or outlaws that found and overpowered the hall. This shows that the Brotherhood has been in a weakened state for quite some time now, and barely has the manpower to defend itself. Whether it was the Legion who got the ball rolling or not is a different story. At this point in time, there are only 3 operating sanctuaries left, one in Falkreath Skyrim, another in Shadenhall Cyrodiil, and the third in Corinth Elsewhere, although the Elsewhere base soon gets shut down, and the guildmates merge with those in Shadenhall. Things aren't all sunshine and rainbows in the Imperial Province though. Breville, home to the Listener and the Night Mother, currently has a gang war raging between 2 skooma trafficking factions. Rasha, the Hall's overseer, sent 2 members, Garnag and Andronica, to help protect the Night Mother's crypt from any invaders. The next entry takes a turn for the worse though, as Cicero says that after a long time of no communications with the contacts in Breville, Garnag finally returned, but in rough shape and alone. The Listener and Andronica were brutally murdered by the factions, but Garnag was able to drag the Night Mother's tomb all the way to Shadenhall, where the guild can properly protect her. Next is Volume 3. Important to note is that up until now, Cicero's writings were coherent, intelligible, and pretty sane sounding. It's this diary where you truly get to see him spiral and evolve into who he is now. It starts off with him saying that without a Listener, the guild has been unable to fulfill their duties. They walk the streets and work the corners to compensate, but they're nowhere near as infamous and legendary as they once were. This is likely how Astrid got used to her current methods of obtaining contracts, as when she was brought on as leader, the Night Mother wasn't around to give work. Falkreath had to adapt and evolve, and as such, abandon the old, traditional ways of the Brotherhood. Back to the journal, Rasha, the head of the Shadenhall Sanctuary, invoked an ancient right to choose a member as the Night Mother's keeper. This member, selected by the Black Hand themselves, ended up being Cicero. This new role meant he was unable to go and embark on new contracts. He was given one last job though, and this is a pretty major factor leading to his downward spiral. He was to go and kill a jester. His duties as keeper had him constantly maintaining and looking after the corpse. Also a driving factor as to why he's so protective over the Night Mother. Months and months go by, and yet no Listener was named, causing frustration amongst everybody. The last entry for this volume details his final contract kill, how the jester laughed, screamed, cried, and laughed some more as he was dying. This is a memory that Cicero holds most fondly. Next is Volume 4, and this is where he truly begins his descent to madness. The city of Shadenhall has exploded with violence and chaos. The guild's numbers have dwindled, and Rasha can no longer keep the hall together. After this, Cicero writes his first entry showcasing his insanity. He calls the silence deafening, and that it's coursing through his head. He calls the Night Mother's lack of action hatred, rage, and love. The volume continues on, and he details that Rasha has falsely claimed to be the Listener. He couldn't recite the binding words though, proving that he was lying. Cicero then conspired with Garnag and had Rasha killed, which at that point, there were only 3 members left. Doom and hopelessness set in. This is when he starts to hear things in his head, specifically laughter. He hears the jester's laughs from the void, and it's comforting to him. Soon thereafter, the other 2 members leave the sanctuary and abandon Cicero. One went to look for food and never came back, while the other was killed in the streets by a bandit. The rest of the entries further cement his madness and insanity. He was left alone, in the dark, with the Night Mother, and the only thing to comfort him was the laughter of the jester. He writes that the old Cicero has died, and the new one is born, a fool of hearts, laughter incarnate. During this time, he pleads with the Night Mother that he'd give anything just to hear her speak. Then finally, there's Volume 5. This is the journal that's needed to progress with the storyline. He begins by writing about how he's finally shutting down the Shadenhall Sanctuary and traveling to Skyrim. He's thinking about going to the Falkreath base, but notes that he's not a fan of their new way of accepting contracts. This is when he drops some quest vital information. There's apparently another sanctuary up in Dawnstar. His original plan was to set up shop there and rebuild the guild. The journal details how to get inside of the lair. He makes mention of the Hall Guardians, cursed undead warriors sworn to protect the sanctuary. He also writes about a beast that's made the base its home too, and Cicero avoids it at all costs. For a time, The sanctuary suited his needs well, but alas, the deafening silence returned and he decided to move on. His new goal was to correct the Falkreath Sanctuary's ways and find the listener. That was a huge lore dump, but now I know why Cicero behaves the way he does, everything he's been through to get here, and his desire to simply see the faction returned to its former glory. With his possible location known though, I returned to Astrid.
Have you found something? Good, good. Does it say where he may be headed? The Dawnstar Sanctuary? Whatever for. Never mind, it doesn't matter. You need to leave. Now. Every moment counts, so I want you to take my horse. His name is Shadowmere. You'll find him outside by the pool. Let's just say he's one of us. Find Arnbjorn. Make sure my husband's all right. And then send that jester's twisted little soul to the void, in as many pieces as possible.
Before heading out, I had a burning question for Astrid.
No, nothing. At least, nothing I'm aware of. Well, if I'm being honest, I haven't exactly been discreet lately in expressing my frustration with this whole situation. Obeying the Night Mother, you being the listener, it's ridiculous. No offense. Cicero may have overheard me talking to one of the others about the Night Mother. It's possible I was not entirely respectful. But to go this far, to attempt to murder the leader of a sanctuary, Cicero must pay with his life. There is no other option.
With that information out in the open, my opinions are starting to develop and take on a new form. Holding my cards close to my chest for now, I left the sanctuary and walked over to the pond outside. I watched as a horse rose up from the black, murky, bubbling water. I'm very familiar with Shadowmere from Oblivion and was more than happy to make it my steed. I didn't forget that Gabriella handed me a token to use on a fortune teller over in Whiterun, but as it would turn out, that leads to a whole other quest that I'd rather embark on later. So, heading to Dawnstar and following my quest marker, the sanctuary there was located really close to the city and it wasn't hidden at all. I'm surprised that it hasn't been reported by hunters or fishermen. Before progressing further, I learned of a neat little detail involving the summoning of Lucien Lechance and listening to his dialogue.
The Keeper is a sacred position within the Dark Brotherhood. Ask yourself, do you trust the wisdom of Our Lady?
It would seem that not every member, dead or alive, agree with prosecuting Cicero. Definitely something to take into account. In any case, sitting in a pool of blood just outside of the sanctuary door was a badly wounded Arnbjorn.
Should have figured Astrid would send you. Ugh, what gave it away? Yeah, gotta admit that little jester's good with that butter knife. But don't worry, I gave as good as I got. In there, through the door. Some old sanctuary by the looks of it. I would have followed him, but I don't know the phrase. Alright, you convinced me. Doubt I'd be much good to you anyway. The little fop cut me pretty deep. But I slashed him good. Pretty sure I severed an artery. Don't know what you're gonna find in there. But you can probably just follow the blood.
Readying myself, I approached the door.
What is life's greatest illusion?
Cicero wasn't front and center, but he did leave a trail of blood for me to follow.
Listener! Is that you? Oh, I knew you'd come! Send the best to defeat the best. Astrid knew her stupid wolf couldn't slay Cicero.
Not too far off from the entrance was a complete set of Jester's clothing, the same set that Cicero wears. Looking at them, they offer slightly different enchantments to the Dark Brotherhood armor. The gloves allow for double the sneak attack damage while using one-handed weapons. The torso piece brings on better prices at 12%, as well as 12% more damage with one-handed weapons. The hat gives a 30% buff to sneak, and the boots actually have the same effect for both sets. In the next room is where the real trouble began. The aforementioned guardians of the sanctuary are actually specters, not unlike LeChance himself. They were hostile towards me, and some were really amazing fighters. Even with a companion, they dealt some serious damage and took a while to defeat. While I meandered through the foreign territory, Cicero kept calling out to me. He would share quips about upcoming traps, and kept mentioning that this isn't what the Night Mother would have wanted. His actions were done to protect the Night Mother and to put Astrid in her place. Eventually, the expedition led me into an icy cave, and Cicero shared some interesting information about it.
Chilly. You'll enjoy this.
I grow restless, as does my blade.
Forced edition. Forced by what? Oh, Cummins!
This had to be done by the beast that Cicero wrote about in his journals. I knew that a battle was imminent, but I felt good and ready with LeChance behind me. Well, now I was on my own, but I was still ready. In the next room over, I ran into the legendary monster, and it was all too familiar. This was an Udafrict, a mythical beast that the player also encounters in Oblivion. Although that one was the matron, so this must have been one of her spawns. I was able to partially cheese the fight by firing off a flurry of arrows from the safety of my tunnel. This really weakened the creature, and it didn't bother making the trek over to me. In a rather lackluster manner, I was able to pick it off no problem and continue my hunt. Following the blood trails, I took on more guardians and ended up venturing through what felt like the entire sanctuary. After taking on what seemed like a whole army of them, I was brought to the final corridor. Walking to the end of it and popping open the door, I saw a wounded, shaking shell of a man on the ground. Approaching Cicero, we had one last chat.
You caught me. I surrender. Oh, I like that. Very good, very good. Creative. But killing me would be a mistake. Oh, yes. You would displease our mother. For she's your mother too, isn't she? Listener. Walk away. Let poor Cicero live. Tell the pretender Astrid that you did the job. Stabbed, strangled, drowned poor Cicero. What little itty-bitty lie.
This is where I'm faced with the ultimate decision. Let Cicero live or strike him down. The embodiment of the old ways versus the new ones. In the past, I've always killed Cicero. I've never once let him leave here alive. However, today's the day that things change. I feel as though I've learned so much about him, what he stands for, and the guild values he tries to uphold. He simply wants things to return to the way they were, and Astrid refuses to do so. I don't think either of them are in the wrong though. Clearly, things have been working for the Falkreath Sanctuary, and perhaps the change they've brought on is more efficient. Things need to evolve and adapt in order to survive. On the other hand, Cicero is just trying to protect ancient traditions and customs that the faction has followed since its inception. Astrid has had strong rejections towards them and has even mocked the Night Mother in front of her keeper, a man who's been by her side alone for a very long time. For this playthrough, I wanted to embrace the guild's origins and ceremonies, so I fled Dawnstar and left Cicero's life to the hands of fate. Returning to the Falkreath Sanctuary, Astrid was waiting for me by the entrance.
Arnbjorn is safe, and for that you have my thanks. But what of the fool? Is Cicero dead? Excellent. Once again, you've proven yourself a born assassin. Tell you what, why don't you hold on to Shadowmere a while longer? He's a fine steed, and hasn't been ridden nearly as much as he should lately. And now that this Cicero mess has been mopped up, we can get back to the matter at hand, There's just one more target before we strike out at the Emperor. Have you by chance heard of the Gourmet? Read his cookbook? It's become quite a phenomenon. The Gourmet is scheduled to cook for the Emperor at a special dinner. You'll kill him, steal his writ of passage, and assume the role of Master Chef. Festus has been spearheading this part of the assassination plan. He's close to uncovering the identity of the Gourmet. You should report to him. Watch yourself out there.
With a white lie to save face, the guild can finally continue with one of its most promising contracts of all time, the assassination of Emperor Titus Mede II. With that, thus ends the quest, The Cure for Madness.